Welcome to This Old House's Facebook Live. We're here with Richard Trethewey, our home technology expert on Ask This Old House. And I'm Heath, Racela, the senior producer of Ask This Old House. I'm going to go ahead right now and give a plug to all of our Twitter handles here. These are Twitter handles. I know we're on Facebook, but Ross is at Ross Tret, and I'm at Heath Racela. We're using the hashtag FutureHouse. So we've got a new segment that we're unveiling this week on Ask This Old House. We're calling it Future House. We're going to get to that in a little bit. We're going to give you guys a preview. We want our Facebook Live audience to know about it before anybody else, which we're very excited to share. But first, Ross, you've been doing stories with us for 4 or 5 years now on the show. But you've grown up kind of with this brand. You're Richard's son. Tell me about what it was like growing up around this whole house.
So, great question. So my dad started doing the show before I was even born. So, This House, Ask This House is part of my vernacular.
And your grandpa actually was on the first season, right? So you're third generation.
The very first season was, my grandfather Ron.
That's awesome.
Pretty crazy, but growing up in a house like that, it was on the television every once in a while, and but we just did everything ourselves, right? We love to be able to just take things apart, fix things. We wanted to be self-sufficient, and it was just great. It was a great experience to have early on. And I didn't even realize the stuff that I was learning back then that now is part of my everyday life.
And it's interesting, I think, because all the guys on the show have kids, and both you and your brother Evan have gone into the trades in various ways. I mean, you're not actually out there turning a wrench every day per se, but tell me a little bit about sort of what do you do when you're not with us on TV?
Yeah, so my day-to-day job is with engineering consulting, right? So what we do is we work with commercial buildings, we work with residential buildings, and so homeowners often want to know, what heating system should I use? What technology should I put into my home?
Sure.
What's going to make it more ready for the future and everything like that? So what we do is we have that conversation with those clients, and then what we do is we put together blueprints. So that we do our duct design, so mechanical plans, we do electrical plans, we do plumbing plans. So the contractor who's actually building the project can actually look at these plans and understand where everything goes, what's going on, and it's going to be a very efficient house, a very comfortable house. Or commercial building in the commercial sector, and what ends up happening is the client gets a system that meets their budget and meets their expectations.
Sure, and a lot of times it involves renewables or off-grid. I mean, you've talked about doing projects, I know, in Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard.
Yep.
I've heard of, was it St. John's? You were down in the Virgin Islands doing projects. I mean, big scale, everything from a house to hotels, right?
That's right. Yeah, so we'll go wherever we need to go, right? So if a client reaches out to us, we got a project in Martha's Vineyard where we want to do something so green, so efficient, so futuristic, we're there.
Right.
We'll take the ferry over, we'll meet with the architect, we'll meet with the client, we'll discuss all that stuff. Usually it involves geothermal, maybe solar, maybe wind. We even have done some biomass, wood, pellet, boiler designs, whatever is going to fit the needs of the project.
And, I think we're hearing a lot from people that are excited to have this conversation, excited to see you involved with the brand. This is something that we've been doing for a number of years. We've done solar installs together on the roof of our barn here as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a great project.
Out in San Francisco, we did one a few years back. We did a wind project in Texas. One of the challenges for me on the producing side, I think, was you just named 4 or 5 of the renewable projects that are out there, right?
Right.
And to keep it fresh for you guys out there and to try to figure out what are new stories that we can tell, what are ways that we can bring Ross and other experts into the fold after you do so many wind projects. There's only so many
you can do, right?
And we want to see more of you. So that's why we're launching this segment that we're calling Future House. You can see behind us here, this is the logo. You're going to see that on TV starting in some markets tonight, in some places this weekend. Check your local listings for more information on that. But this segment sort of grew out of conversations you and I started having a few months ago of just sort of drilling the depths of your expertise and understanding what could make a good story. Do you want to kind of, let's clue people into sort of those early phone calls that you and I started having about how to get you more involved.
Yeah.
What the future house.
I mean, you nailed it with, solar, wind, geothermal, those things are great to show. It's a huge part of the future, no doubt about that. But there's all these other things that are coming out, right? So a lot of people are talking about IoT, Internet of Things.
Sure.
A lot of people are talking about futuristic home technologies, right? A lot of people are talking about tiny house projects. So all of this is, I think, a huge part of what the potential future house could be. And so, yeah, those early discussions we had, we're just talking about, what could we talk about? And so, I'd mentioned, there was a MIT, startup company out of the MIT Media Lab, and they're doing robotic walls, right? How to make a small footprint, a micro apartment, feel bigger by changing the walls in the space, right? So that kind of stuff I just absolutely love. I mean, I crave technology. I love thinking about the future and what that's going to hold, and so. That's why I brought it to your attention and said, hey, these are things that maybe people would be interested in seeing.
Yeah, and so this first iteration of Future House, which we're seeing in some places this week on PBS, it's all about this robotic wall system. And the cool thing to me when we were there, this was a tiny apartment, 300 square feet. And if any of us, I had an apartment like that in college. You put a bed in that apartment.
It's small.
That's it, right? There's no space for furniture. And
100%.
There's always that uncomfortable moment where you're entertaining or whatever. And, your friends come over and they're like, well, do I sit on the bed? Do I put my feet on the bed?
This is weird.
So why don't you talk a little bit about sort of what this company has developed and what we're going to see, what our audience is going to see on the show.
So this MIT startup company, what they are doing is they are pushing the boundaries on movable furniture. So they're starting off with their first prototype, and now it's going to market is a robotic wall. So think about this robotic wall that could be 2 feet thick, could be 6 feet thick, and it could actually house a bed, house a master closet, house a TV, have an office desk, all built into this wall. And then guess what? Now they add some pressure control technology so that the harder I push the actual control keypad, the faster it moves, right? And or I could do Amazon Alexa's robotic device. You could talk to that and have it open or close. So the wall could physically move in one direction or not. The bed could come out of it. The closet could open. It's really the start of something really cool.
And the interesting thing there was when you talk about robotics, I think people think of a Roomba, or they think of Rosie from the Jetsons, or this very sentient being that's moving around. It's really a garage door opener. It's electric motors tied into a track. But there's a lot of software controls and a lot of sort of smart technology around that it's very interesting.
Right. It's just a rethinking the garage door opener. You're absolutely right. So it's a linear track, it's a motor, and it's got some really cool user interface controls to basically open and close the wall. But it's simple.
Yeah.
It's really nothing like it's just a different spin on a device we've already been used to using.
And it's interesting just already sort of seeing the feedback coming in. We're seeing from Dan Gray here. Just what we were promised as kids, the Jetsons. He's waiting for that flying car too. Maybe we're not there quite yet. But robotics are a big part of this. Let me put the plug in there again. We're talking to Ross Trethewey, our home technology expert, on Ask This Old House about this new segment we're launching, Future House.
Very excited.
Ross's Twitter handle, my Twitter handle.
Ask away.
Right here.
Hey, everybody.
We're looking for your questions. So this is the first version of this. It's not a new space for us on Ask This Old House. I think we've looked at new technology from a number of different angles. I mean, I think about the trip that we did with your dad and Kevin last year to Germany. Even this past week on the show, your dad was looking at this very high-tech way to sort of zone heating and cooling. We've looked at smart thermostats, smart lighting controls with Scott. We've been sort of looking at this from a couple different angles. I think what makes Future House unique is it's about technology that's not something you can go to the store shelf today maybe and purchase. You can order it and things in some cases, but this is stuff that maybe in 5-10 years people will have in their house, right?
Yeah, to tease it, right? It may be there, it may just be coming out, but the true sense of that product or those products is definitely going to be 5 years from now.
Sure. And part of what's exciting too from our standpoint, being here in Massachusetts, we have MIT, we have Harvard. It's not quite the activity that's going on out in Silicon Valley and Palo Alto and all that, but
there's some cool stuff.
It's a close second. And we've got this innovation district, they're calling it, down in South Boston. A lot of new startups, a lot of new tech moving into town. It's exciting to see where it goes, and I think it's important for us to be able to bring that picture to the rest of the country and really help them figure out.
I mean, it's in our backyard. Why wouldn't we use that as a resource to be able to look at these cool technologies, try to bring it to the audience, and tease this stuff that might be one day part of the house that we live in?
Sure.
Right?
And part of it, I think, was understanding the smarts behind your building, how your building operates, how to be more efficient. One of our next future houses that we're going to see in a few weeks, I think early next winter, like February or so, is this home energy monitor. Do you want to talk a little bit about that project?
Yeah. So really cool product. So people want to be able to measure how much electricity they're using in their building.
Right.
And right now, there's not really an easy way to do it. The electric meter, cumulative, running out total.
I get a bill once a month. It tells me, okay, I owe $60 to the utility. I have no idea if it's high or low.
And then you get a letter saying, oh, you're 20% more efficient than your neighbors, or you're 20% worse than your neighbors. You're like, all right, well, great, but how do I affect change, right? I'm 20% worse. How do I make my house better?
Right.
They don't give you, or they're not really giving you, clues into how to lower the energy consumption. So this product is 2 clamps that measures onto your main breaker coming into your house. So your service panel's there. You got your L1, L2 coming in, feeding 120 volts into your panel. What it's doing is it's being able to take all that data, crunch it, and show you how much each appliance is actually using.
It's incredible.
It really is incredible. And so you could say, oh, I used my coffee maker this morning, and it used 80 watts of electricity. Right. I could say, oh, a garage door opener. And so you could literally go through, and that's how you can affect change.
Right.
And now break down your electric bill in terms of, all right, 50% of it was used to heat or cool my building. What was the other 50% used for?
Right. And we're also, by installing it just at the main electric panel with 2 clamps, you're getting all that data by reading the device-by-device electric signature. I mean, we looked at a house in this segment. It was from the 1960s or 50s.
Oh, yeah.
It had an original oven in it.
Yeah.
This is a 1960s oven, and this smart meter was able to read it. We didn't have to put any modules in. There's no new technology to buy. So great ways to retrofit for old houses, right?
Yeah, the fact that it could pick up any appliance, and notice it either as an unknown load that it was trying to identify, or whether it told you right away, oh, that's the oven. I mean, the fact that it could be worked in a 1960 house, it could be used in an 1860 house, and the fact that it could be used in a new house,
right,
and a futuristic house, obviously, really cool.
So we're talking to home technology expert Ross Trethewey about a new segment that we're launching on Ask This Old House. It starts this week in some markets on PBS. It's called Future House. I want to say hello to a couple people just writing in. We're so excited to see this stuff. Jim Stark and Braden Bevins both have a similar question here. Are you able to do DIY on home automation? What do you think about home automation? Is that getting closer, or as more companies and more startups come in with different tech languages, is that getting further away in some cases?
It's a really good question. So here's my take on home automation. So there are manufacturers that make individual devices, right? Internet of Things.
Sure.
So if you want to have a cool light, be able to control the lights in your house from an app on your phone, or you want to control the heating, or you want to control this, it's very isolated and vertical silos. Right? You have one app for this, one app for this, one app for this.
I have a deadbolt app, I have a thermostat app, and I have a lighting app.
Right. So you're going to have hundreds. You could have hundreds of apps on your phone, or iPad, or any of those devices. The key is no one's really unlocked how to take all these devices and pull them together. Right. So there's Zigbee, there's Z-Wave, there's Insteon, there's Lutron, there's Control 4.
And even just Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Some of them, right?
And Bluetooth Low Energy
standards. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know that Amazon, Google, Apple, they're all trying to push this trend to be able to pull all these devices together and give you one app that would be able to control everything. It's not there yet. It's definitely not there yet. So I'm hoping that in the next couple of years that there'll be standard protocols so that every device will be able to communicate on the same language, and it will be very efficient.
We're excited to get questions from across the country. Mike in Orlando, Angela from Cleveland, one from Katie Campbell that's interesting. If I upgrade my house and the new tech fails, what do I do then?
It's a great question, Katie. We are relying more and more on these really, really cool technologies, right? But the thing is, if your electricity goes down, or if, something were to fail, it really depends on the device. So in the robotic wall segment, there was an actual emergency lever. Yep. So you could, if the wall failed for some odd reason or electricity went down, you could release the emergency lever and you could push it manually. There are some heating and cooling thermostats that will allow you to still manually operate the thermostat up or down or whatever, even if you lost the control through your phone.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of these technologies that you can still utilize even if your app or the internet were to go down in your house. But it's not true of all devices.
It's interesting. We talked about this this zoning segment that your dad did last week on the show, and we talk about it in this week's show with the robotic wall. Sort of the progress of innovation. It seems to start with the car. A lot of this stuff is already there in our cars, and it slowly makes its way into the house, right?
Yes. Yeah, it started with the car, and the natural progression is, all right, if we can do this in the car and it works and it makes sense, why not take it to the house?
Right.
You know, and so if it makes our lives easier, you know, just lowers the stress, all that stuff. That technology, the way I view it, is if it does all that for us, it's a good thing.
Right. Kendrick has an interesting question. She loves seeing new tech, but what happens when you move? Americans are moving every 5 to 7 years. Do you take that technology with you? Is it so out of date anyway? Is there a premium that you can get when you sell your house?
Another great question. You know, I would say that if you had certain things, certain devices, you can take them with you. There's no doubt about that.
Sure.
If you have a whole automation system that's wired, you know, the whatever wired system you're using, Ethernet, Cat6, if you do that, then it's probably likely you're just going to leave those devices there and leave the wiring and everything in place, and you're just going to move to the new house. And at that point, there probably will be a new technology that's already out there that's going to be worth installing in the new house at a fraction of the cost of what you did for the original house.
Right.
So it's changing so fast, and I think that every 5 to 7 years is going to be a new platform anyway.
It's exciting.
That's my thoughts.
A lot of questions on solar, actually. Elon Musk just did this big announcement, Tesla and Solar City, finally getting us away from panels, right? There's some issues with panel. I have a historic house. My house was built in 1910. I have a beautiful south-facing roof. But it was a commitment when we chose to put 20 solar panels on that roof. It changes the look of the house. Some people aren't willing to do that. Where do you see solar headed? And you know, is the Musk model the way to go? Are we going to continue to see panels? Is it depend on economics?
So solar, obviously, you know that it's going to be a huge part of our future, no matter what. The cool thing is that one company's doing a what I would call a skin. So it's like a sticker that's UV resistant and actually can go onto an actual panel. So it could, if let's just say you had a standing seam roof, or let's say you had you know, a clay tiled roof, you know, often down in the southeast part of the country. If you could take those black panels or white panels that just don't look good on your roof, and now I could add a sticker to it that had the same footprint and same design as the roof, it could actually blend in, almost like an amphibian, right? Blend in.
It's like a laminate countertop almost, right? It's a picture of a clay roof. Is that what you're talking about? Where I see the clay tiles and then there's a clay skin over my PV panel?
So it's a regular PV panel, no different there, and all it is a sticker that's being applied to the actual panel that now lets it blend in with the roof around it. So that's going to be, I think, the interim process to get solar panels looking better. The future, though, will be probably going to be solar materials that will be integrated into the actual roof materials. So whether it's a slate roof, whether it is a standing seam roof, whether it is an asphalt shingle roof, no matter what, these materials will be made with either a solar coating, will be made with the actual solar module behind it, and it will be part of every single home, and you wouldn't even know that it's solar.
Right. And I think that's the big key. People worry about the aesthetics of solar. There's huge benefit. I mean, again, in my own house, we did a system 4 years ago, and for the first 3 years, we didn't have an electric bill at all.
It's awesome.
Now I have 2 kids. We use a lot more power than we used to. But even so, I mean, we're paying $10-20 a month. It's incredible. We're talking to home technology expert Ross Trethewey about a new segment that we're launching on Ask This Old House this week in some places. These are our Twitter handles. Send us questions here. Comment right here on Facebook. We're excited to make you guys a part of the discussion. This Future House segment, it's really about looking at new technology and just like all of Ask This Old House, really answering questions. We're seeing Nancy Pine, Mark Ross, Rob McGinley, Joe Bartek, Garth, lots of people writing in with great questions.
Thank you.
And we want to get to all of them. One thing that's interesting, I think, is just sort of looking at the world view right now of where the U.S. is relative to other markets. Some of the stories that we've been looking at, we're talking about potentially, I don't think this season, but maybe next year, if you guys like Future House and it continues, maybe doing some segments in Iceland where they're 100% renewable, which is crazy to me. Like we're, I don't know, the U.S., 8% or something renewable energy. 100%
I think less than that.
And I know you've done a lot of work in Germany. We were there with your dad and Kevin last year looking at boiler technology and stuff. Where do you see sort of the innovation? Where could this segment go? And we're curious from you guys if you're interested in it. Would you want to see what's happening in Iceland or Germany or Japan, Korea? What do you see as the trends out there internationally?
Yeah, so the world is definitely becoming flatter, right? So there are really cool heat pump technologies coming out of Korea and Japan.
Yep.
There is some really cool geothermal technologies coming out of Iceland. Obviously, the geology there is a little bit different than the rest of the world.
They have these geysers and hot springs.
Hot rock and hot spring and a lot of cool stuff there. But and wind turbines that are coming out from Iceland, but also from Europe, from Asia, from the U.S. There's one based in Maine, a local company here. So there's a lot of cool technologies coming out from all different, parts of the world, and it's really cool to see. And I hope that the audience really likes this stuff, so we can keep talking about it.
Yeah, and we'll see. This is part of an ongoing conversation. I'm going to put our Twitter handles up again. Feel free to leave comments on Facebook as well. We want this to be part of, it's a two-way conversation. Segments that you guys, and who knows? We've got 2 of these in the can. Maybe that's it. Maybe you guys don't like this. Maybe you want to see more sawdust. We're doing that too. In the same show this week, we're talking about this robotic wall, and Tommy and Kevin are building a bench out of reclaimed heart pine.
Right.
So
could be more polar opposites.
Yeah, we're not giving up on the sawdust or the house calls by any means, but we're curious what matters to you. And already we're seeing Brian is saying make Future House its own show. Who knows?
Thank you, Brian.
Maybe that'd be fun. We see a lot, anytime we do an Internet of Things story, these are these smart devices that are connected to the web. People worry about security, whether it's a deadbolt, a thermostat, smoke detectors. What are your thoughts on how you safeguard some of this technology?
Yeah.
Should I be concerned if I put this in my house that a hacker could disable something?
This is definitely one that I'm really concerned about. We don't have a solution yet on a way of really stopping any kind of cybersecurity, right?
Yep.
It's an issue for large companies. It's it's an issue in the house as well. Having a firewall, having a good router system, having a good protected network inside your house is all part of it, and that's a good starting point. But nothing's really hacker proof.
Sure.
If a hacker really wants to get into a system, they potentially could.
Right.
So that part's scary. There's no doubt about that. And you got to weigh the pros and cons. Being able to unlock your lights, unlock your doors, turn on lights, all that stuff, is the advantage of having that on an app or wirelessly. Is it worth it to you, to the potential of a hacker getting in there to turn on your lights or not, right? And realistically, I would say most hackers probably aren't going for the actual common home.
Right.
They're probably going for the Sonys of the world and everything else. So I think it's definitely a concern, no doubt about it. It's not something to be looked at loosely, but yeah, I don't have a good answer for that.
And I think part of the challenge, right, is there are some of these companies that are part of, a thermostat company that's part of Google, for example, and there's a big infrastructure behind it.
Correct.
There are others that are really small startups that might be 10 people that have come up with this cool product and gotten it to market. But there's no standard right now. There's no protocols. So do your research, do your homework, right?
Yeah. You just try to have your best wireless protection system. So a really good password with good security and a good firewall. That's really what I would recommend to anyone right now on that.
In terms of sort of what else is out there, we talked a little bit about going to Iceland and looking at the energy picture. We're talking to a company, and again, we want to know your feedback. Is this something that you think would be cool? You turned me on to this Robotic Kitchen company in London.
Yeah, really cool.
It's a kitchen with these arms that literally, from what I understand, you wear a motion control suit, or a famous chef, let's say, wears a motion capture suit like they do for video games or animated movies, and they make a recipe, and a computer saves those actions of chopping the onion and frying it, and then it can replicate. So I could download, let's say, Jamie Oliver's recipes or Rachel Ray's or whatever I wanted, and have a robot cook for me. I mean, that's Jetsons level stuff we're talking about. Do you really think, first of all, I'm curious if our audience is interested in seeing a segment like that, but also I'm curious, is that something that people are going to put in their houses?
So I don't know if people will put that in their houses. I think that in the future, it's inevitable, right? Can you imagine driving home from work and being able to speak to your car and say, home robot, whatever the name is for your robot, right? I would like a grilled cheese sandwich when I get home, right? It's just something so simple. You could have a home robot create that for you, so the food. So when you get home, you have a nice cooked home dinner, all done by a robot, right? That I mean, it's really cool.
It's better than microwaving a burrito, right?
Right.
I mean, it's fresh ingredients.
Fresh home cooked. You get an organic meal. You know, all that stuff, all done by Home Robot, and that Home Robot will do more other tasks.
Yep.
They will they'll clean your house, right? They will fold your laundry. I mean, I really do believe that this Home Robot thing is going to be a huge part of the future. It's just a matter of time, I think, realistically.
And it's interesting too. I think when we look back at these old Jetsons cartoons, or I sent you a thing. Walt Disney used to do that show where he would talk about the future and what was coming. And it was from the 1950s, 57 or 58, and it was all about what our car was going to look like. And at that point, they were teasing it as 10 years out. And it's stuff that only now we're seeing. Cameras that show you, instead of mirrors, and battery technology and self-driving, maps included in the dashboard. But all this fanciful stuff that, back in the 50s, 60s, this very prosperous time, was being teased by a lot of industry.
Yep.
I feel like we're there. We're very close to, who knows if we're going to be in flying cars or going up and down a tube elevator like George Jetson. But is that something that you see on the horizon, perhaps?
I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I think the question is what horizon time period we're talking about. If you're talking about tomorrow or next year, probably not there yet. But it's taking off so quickly and so fast that every single day there's a new technology. Every single week there's a new product that's released, and it's only getting more efficient, better, faster, making our lives more easy to all of that stuff. So it's really, really cool.
Awesome. I think let's ask one last question. This is from Kevin. Will we see?
Hey, Kev.
Will we see? I don't think it's Kevin O'Connor.
No,
maybe it is. Who knows?
No.
Kevin
I know Kev. Yep.
Will we see all of our home appliances integrated into smartphones soon? The smartphone seems to be the sort of point of entry for a lot of this, right? I mean, that's part of what changed, is now we're all carrying computers, on our wrists too, right?
Right.
In our pockets and on our wrists.
100%.
How does the smartphone play into all this?
So the smartphone is the gateway to all this technology. And right now, it's a physical device that we carry around with us. All the appliances will be, all the devices will be connected to that through that technology. But where it will go from there is that in the future, that actual device will go away. Right, and it will all potentially be an implantable device, behind your ear.
Now that's
going to measure your heart rate. It's going to measure, right, and it will do real-time data sent to your doctor to be able to see what your vitals are, what your cholesterol levels are. I mean, it's crazy to think about. And as far as there'll be Google Glasses, those kind of products, that you won't even have that device anymore.
Right.
You'll be able to talk. A lot of it will be verbal, so you'll be able to say, like Amazon Alexa, I want to do a Google search for this, and you could be able to see that on your glasses or on a screen that's going to just pop up.
And that's the big difference too, I think, just sort of as we wrap this all up and think about where we're headed with the future house, is it used to be, I feel like home automation and all that stuff, it was something you paid a lot of money for. You had a guy come in literally almost writing code for you, right?
Right.
And now it is as simple as, once you get everything hooked up, hey, turn on my lights. Who won the World Series last night? What are the latest polls in the election? You can get headlines. You can control your devices. You can do everything with your voice, and that's so cool. That's really so exciting. We've got a lot of people that are writing in. We're just going to say a quick hi, Joe Bartek. This is a great feedback. PBS, sign these two guys up for their own show. What do you say, Ross? You and me. You want to
let's do it.
Two caballeros.
Thank you, Joe.
Future house.
Love that.
Jason's out there. Dalton, Apple, Janata, Michael Senzen, Drew Colborn, Vishal. Good to see you, Trivedi. Thank you, Vishal Trivedi. Hello, cool show. Jason Davies. Lots of people writing in. I think we've got to wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Here's our Twitter handles again. This is probably the best way to get in touch with. I'm not at Facebook, right? You are, but
tweet us. Ask any questions. Keep it coming. Thank you all.
At Ross Tret, at Heath Racela, #Future House. Future House starts airing this week on PBS. Check your local listings for that. It'll be online soon after that. And let's keep the conversation going, guys. We'll be back for more of these Facebook Lives. We want to know what you guys want to see. We want to know what types of segments and technology you have questions about. And we love seeing Ross on TV. We hope to have him back a lot more this year and next year. So
let us know.
Keep us in the loop. We love hearing it. For Facebook Live and This Old House, I'm Heath Racela, and we're here with Ross Trethewey. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome.